episode 2 of the second season of Futurama, the writers were looking at the responses on the early forums, and they decided we needed a Zap Brannigan episode early on, and they delivered one. And it's our fourth Zap Brannigan appearance. A Flight to Remember, and
fourth.
Yeah, because A Flight to Remember and When Aliens Attack.
Of course, yeah.
And yeah, barring another like minor appearance that I'm not thinking of, I believe this the fourth Zap Brannigan appearance. I happen to think this episode is actually pretty solid, although the thing is, it's just the whole episode is just the Zap Brannigan episode, and he's just the focus of every scene, and it's not like there's a plot other than like his behavior, which you can't really predict his behavior. It's not like there's like a consistent line. It's just like, he's out of power. He becomes the lackey. He organizes a coup on the ship, and then in his weird logic, he's going to abandon the crew, send him on a suicide mission, take Kif with him, and then the crew saves the day, and then to make sure he doesn't get right back with the crew, he leaves and back to Duke.
Can I just say, I've always loved how Bender and Fry react to all this, how they're involved with Zap Brannigan's plot, and how my favorite line ever is when they run to Leela and they're like, "Oh, we want you to be captain again," and she just like asks him a couple of questions. "Oh, did he cancel nap time?" And then they're just like, "No." It's like, "Oh, we're gonna die," and they nod along, you know. Mm-hmm. I just love how those two are entwined to Zap Brannigan's like incompetence and like sort of disregard for life when it comes to command. Yeah, which is like a key characteristic of Zap. You know, wave after wave of my men against them. Yeah, and I love how they don't even think about that. Mm. And then they they end up going straight back to Leela.
I like the episode. I get the feeling that the writers just didn't think of enough foundations for the story.
Well, I never thought about that idea of it being a them looking on the forums or whatever, early internet forums, and fan requests, and they just straight up did a Zap episode straight away. I'm sure they love Zap too. Yeah. But it does feel a bit like that. Like, it ruins a bit of the magic of Zap's appearances because he is the main character in the episode. Yeah. Pretty early on in the show as well. The Midnight Cowboy thing's pretty fun.
Oh, yeah, that's true. I forget about that.
And there's like a lot of good jokes throughout it. But yeah, it's such a sort of half-assed premise for an episode. Though I did always love the his absurd hatred of the neutral planet.
Yeah.
It's just
it's sadistic and pathological.
Exactly, and just the neutral planet are so neutral about it that it's just this weird, like, very dynamic joke that it's not even a joke you laugh out at. you think about it for years on end. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's something in your head, and you keep thinking about it. It's not like a belly laugh sort of joke. But I've always appreciated that about this episode. Though, it is just doesn't live up to that season 1 standard I have, maybe with rose-colored glasses in my head. But
yeah, Brannigan
it does live up to that eventually, obviously.
Yeah,
next episode.
I was going to say, well, because Brannigan Begin Again it's one of these episodes, it's one of these season 2 episodes we were talking about where it's about a character, not about a premise. You know what I mean? About a science fiction premise or some sort of concept. But it's just the character does wacky thing because we like that character.
Totally.
Let's have an episode about them.
Yeah,
in a very sitcom, almost Hackney manner.
Yeah, Zap was a character I'm sure everybody liked from the first season.
Yeah, especially when there was only one season of that show. Like, that would have been a very impressionable figure, was Zap Brannigan. Like, imagine being on a forum in 1999, like a Usenet, not quite Usenet at that time, but just typing up about Futurama. It's like, the last episode was great. Can't wait for the next week's. And you would have been in between season 1 and 2. You've been typing, expectations for season 2. Can't wait for this. This is my favorite show. The Simpsons is going downhill, so I've got Futurama. Fun stuff. And
yeah, that's a good point. I always found that fascinating as a kid. As the Simpsons got shit, Futurama got good. I always thought that was really neat. So in the vacuum that was the Simpsons quality, Futurama filled that void.
Yeah.
Honestly, that's probably one of the best things Futurama ever did.
Yeah, it's interesting. The idea of, like, if the Simpsons had cancelled after like 8 or 10 seasons, would have been seen as too much of like a relic of the 90s.
Maybe.
I almost like the idea that The Simpsons like continued forever, and it like had this. It becomes an institution, but like The Simpsons' failure is kind of as an indication of the times more than anything else. Because I don't think The Simpsons could have been good no matter. I think there was only so much you could do with it anyway. I think no matter who was at the helm, because people like Swartzwelder and Meyer were still there up to like season 15. Like there's only so much you could do with The Simpsons after 8 or 10 seasons. Bad episodes start to come out of the woodwork around season 9. So people blame Mike Scully taking over as showrunner in season 9. I don't know enough about that to be sure, but I do know because I happen to quite like a lot of what's in season 9 and 10.
Mike Scully's not like Al Jean. Is that the guy who was like the showrunner?
Yeah, but Al Jean was around for season 3 and 4 as well. To be fair,
is that the guy who was the
Al Jean after Scully?
Yeah.
Al Jean's just been there since, and he's probably just like it's just a job to these guys.
Yeah, right. He's just like the project manager and. They have a more involved writing staff.
Yeah, probably because it was Al. He's on the Al Jean's on the original writing staff. It was him and Reese were showrunners in 4 and 5. It was their baby. That was like arguably the best years of the show. And then
how did David X. Cohen get involved? Just to tie Futurama back in. Actually, I don't know.
To The Simpsons?
Yeah. Where did he start?
I'm not certain, but he starts around. I think these first Cohen episodes pop up around season 6 or 7.
Okay.
But he was involved enough in the show that when they do, what's really funny is if you watch some of the Simpsons episodes and they animate the writing staff circa like season 7 or 8, David X. Cohen will be there.
Okay.
You can recognize him quite easily.
Which one's he?
He has glasses and kind of like a short haircut.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I always thought it was funny all the animators that they animate like into The Simpsons.
Yeah, John Swartzwelder in the mental asylum.
Oh, that's great!
In
Hurricane Eddie, yeah.
My favorite shot of this, in the front. There's a shot of the season 4 that they've got the classic writing staff animated in the front. And Abe Simpson.
Is that
that's all of them. Like that's like the most legendary team of all time.
Yeah.
Right
oh hell yeah.
That's like the Monty Python of the 90s.
That's what I was gonna say. I love all the Itchy and Scratchy animating office stuff.
Yeah,
it's great.
They're doing their meta jokes.
Oh, all the meta jokes, and they're really just they're subtle and not subtle, obviously. Like things like Poochie, but they're just
funny.
They're generational jokes. It's really great. But that's one thing I do like about Futurama is it rarely does like obnoxious meta jokes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they're always I guess because Futurama just exists in its own little world.
Yeah.
The year 3000 to 3012, I think it ends up being.
Sure, right.
Yeah. Which I always found that weird with later Futurama. They'd reference the year being like the contemporary year, but 1,000 years later. I don't know. Just the idea that they're all aging.
Yeah. Well, by later Futurama, you mean like 6 and 7?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, because in Bender's Big Score, they established that like a similar amount of time has passed since the show was off the air, like as part of the joke.
Yeah, I guess that the way Bender's Big Score starts is probably the most obnoxious meta joke in Futurama. But it's still a lot.
It's still funny.
But it's a lot of fun. That's
they got like grounding up the Fox
executives
into like baby powder.
Yeah. And it's an ongoing joke throughout the rest of the thing. Yeah,
yeah, that's funny.
Yeah, I mean, Brannigan, fucking pretty good episode.
Yeah, anything else to share about it?
I'm surprised. Yeah, it's an episode that I used to like more than I do now, but it's just something about it these days gets under my skin. But talking about it now has been a lot of fun. It's a thing that I think in reflection, it's better than in watching.
Mm-hmm. Well, I know the neutral planet has become one of the most memed moments in Futurama.
Really?
I see that clip. I have no opinion on this one way. Or tell my wife I said hello.
Oh yeah, that's great.
Like that's like I swear I heard people like quote that. Tell my wife I said hello.
Yeah, it's a funny line.
Because it was just like something so deadpan and cynical and kind of like sickly comedic about that.
It's a beige alert.
Yeah. I think Zap hates the neutral planet because Zap can convince others that he's a hero and they'll like adulate him, but he's such a narcissist, and because the neutral planet will never act anything except neutral toward him.
Yeah,
that's why he hates them, because he's that much of a narcissist.
Yeah, perhaps. They're probably that does make sense. I mean, yeah, that's exactly why. I'm sure they weren't even thinking that deep, the writers there, but just by happenstance of that being his actions, you can like sort of psychoanalyze
It just writes
that onto
itself.
Zap. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's what I mean by Futurama being its own little contained universe. Is great. It's like one of the science fiction concepts within the show itself is the show. So yeah, I mean, do you want to wrap it up there?
We might as well. Thank you, everyone.